Welcome back. We are now at the last event as part of RAMM Lates this evening. I'm delighted to welcome Léonie Hampton and also RAMM's contemporary art curator Lara. So I'm going to hand over to both of you for the next part of the evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us. So here's Léonie, and we're here to talk about Léonie's new commission for RAMM. So last year, during the first lockdown, we wanted to commission a photographer to make new work inspired by RAMM's seed collections. And we're also looking to complement the exhibition Seedscapes, which is touring from Impressions Gallery in Bradford. And we're going to be opening RAMM in May, when we're allowed to, with Seedscapes and this new commission by Léonie Hampton. Anyway, we're very fortunate that Léonie decided to apply for this commission. She's based in Devon, and we're going to be seeing a little kind of sneak preview, actually, of what Léonie has produced for the museum. I'm going to talk about the process of creating the commission, Léonie's influences, and what it's like to work with a curator and the museum. And there'll be some time for questions as well. So we're about half an hour in total, and we're hoping that we'll be able to have about 10 minutes for questions. So if you want to put your questions in the Q&A area, then I'll pick them up there and go back to them about 10 minutes from the end of the session. So first of all, I'm going to hand over to Léonie, who's going to give you this sneak preview, because I have to admit that we've managed to install it with our fabulous technician, George. And Léonie saw it for the first time on Tuesday. So thank you very much, Léonie. It's been such a fantastic thing to work with you on. Would you like to share your screen now?
Yeah, I might, Laura, would you mind sharing the screen? Because Laura's in a place with better internet than me. So
okay.
Because it's a film, we thought she could show it for us. So.
Good idea.
Oh,
thank you so much. That was stunning.
Oh, I don't know. And thank you so much, Laura, for sharing that. I'm going to now share my screen.
We've had Earth Day written in the diary.
Earth Day, what a perfect day to meet. 1 sec, just going to share mine. Share. So hopefully this is now going to work. Is that coming up?
Yes.
So I actually went back, Lara, to the very beginning when I applied after you put the call out for the commission. And in that call out, I put a picture from a series of mine called Mend and a picture of some seeds from RAMM, trying to articulate my idea that I wanted to bring photography of my family that I had been developing for a number of years through In the Shadow of Things and Mend into this landscape of lockdown, which was being with my family in my garden, growing vegetables. And I wanted to learn sort of how more about from plants, more about the kind of idea of this archaic wisdom of plants and growth and love, and tell a story about that. And I feel so privileged that you gave this opportunity to me, because it's given me such focus in these troubling times. And I looked at the herbaria in this process of writing the artistic statement, and I was captivated by the way in which these plants had been preserved and taken care of, these fragile tapes that were holding them together. And I put this idea forward that people like Bruno Latour, Donna Haraway, Ursula Le Guin, and other wondrous minds talk about the idea that if we want to change the future, we have to change the stories that we tell ourselves. And I wrote that we were told that Adam and Eve were banished from the garden, and that now might be a good time to return to the garden and learn our role as stewards of this earth, to take care of it. I remember also really leaning into the ideas in The Secret Garden of Frances Hodgson Burnett, who says in that book, it's a children's book, a beautiful book that I'm sure many know, that if you look the right way, then the whole world is a garden. And by that, I think she's referring to this idea of our participation. I was also reading Rebecca Solnit at the time, who also referred to people like Voltaire's amazing book, Candide, where he ends his book saying, we must tend our gardens. And she says, is this a statement of defeat, or is it a manifesto for tending the garden as a larger set of inventions and intentions? If planting vegetables allows you to retreat from supermarkets and factory farming, it is a political act and a political victory, maybe even an attack in the guise of a retreat. And so it's been so incredible to work with you, Lara, to kind of realize that dream, that original dream, your dream of commissioning this, and my dream of somehow bringing my family and my friends and life into this conversation with seeds. And it's a wonderful
image, actually, the previous image.
Yeah, it's wonderful the way the space has ended up working. I think is almost beyond what I had hoped could work at the original idea. This idea where the seeds are sitting in this central core of the gallery, and there's this kind with the glass and the reflections, and there's this layers of time, and it really enhances the dynamic relationships that are being set up by all of the elements that are in the space, predominantly this relationship between the seeds and the photographs of life that I've been making. And the seeds kind of hold the space with this kind of resting, they rest in the center of the room in these cabinets, and the photographs just emanate from them. That's how I see it. And we chose the seeds. We worked with Holly Morganroth, who was very patient with my indecisions as I was trawling through all this incredible collection, going, what shall I choose? It's all so incredible. And in the end, the category by which we defined what should come into the gallery through kind of, looking at the seeds, working with seeds with Lara and Holly, was firstly just their beauty, their otherworldliness, their extraordinariness. So here we have the Coca del Mar seed, which is the largest and heaviest seed in the world, and is now actually under the status of being endangered. So it's very apt to this story. And then the other criteria, other than this kind of beauty of the natural world, we looked at many herbaria sheets, herbarium, and in the end, it was mostly helped by this woman here who's written a wonderful book called A Woman's Book of Herbs. And so the herbaria are all of medicinal properties, the ones we have chosen. And that's in the middle, for example, you have mugwort. And if you put mugwort, which grows everywhere, if you look for it, it grows, it helps you dream. So there's a beautiful thing to know. And this is just the humble dandelion. Robin Wall Kimmerer, who is very central to underpinning the kind of foundation of thought in this work, with her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, an incredible book if you've not read it. She describes dandelions as global citizens. And it's important to think of this idea of engaging with what is around us, that what might be defined as a weed is only defined by us as a weed. It is perhaps a useful plant. And a dandelion, according to Elizabeth Brooke, who wrote the book I just held, she says that the dandelion root has been used for millennia for diseases of the liver. And all this is around us as a gift from the earth. So here are just a few close-ups of the pictures. And it's important thinking in that Robin Wall Kimmerer way that if you grow a garden, you're growing it not just for yourself, but for all the life that it sustains. And seeds are a very important topic because over 60% of our commercial seeds worldwide are owned by just 4 companies. And that control of our food supply is an urgent matter. And we need to take back sovereignty of our food supply by doing simple acts of collecting local seeds and passing them to neighbours and growing what we can in land that or window boxes, because this is ways that we can support diversity, local diversity. Ooh, doesn't want to go. So the pictures are about seeking threads to connect the world and not to divide, but to join us, to find ways of remembering and realizing that we're completely a part of nature, and that, to my mind, nothing that humans have ever invented even comes close to the beauty of what is already here in nature. So to me, it feels the definition of madness that we should be destroying any part of it. It's a beautiful essay called The Carrier Bag Theory of Fiction by Ursula Le Guin. And she retells the story of the human origin by redefining it as a story of gathering rather than hunting. It lacks that progressive techno hero story, and rather it's about the taking care, the bringing home. Kimmerer tells us that if all the world is a commodity, how poor we grow. But when all the world is a gift in motion, how wealthy we become. It is human perception that makes the world a gift. And when we view the world in this way, we are transformed. Plants know how to make food and medicine from light and water, and then to give it away. And to read from Kimmerer in her Braiding Sweetgrass book, a lot of the time you hear people say that the best thing people can do for nature is to stay away from it and let it be. There are places where that is absolutely true. But we are also given the responsibility to care for land. What people forget is that that means participating, that the natural world relies on us to do good things. You don't show your love and care by putting what you love behind a fence. You have to be involved. You have to contribute to the well-being of the world. We have to face looks like this from my beautiful godchild, Camille, who to me is challenging, saying, what is this world you're passing to me? And I want to try to change my behavior in certain ways so I can be proud of the world I pass to her. And changing that story is also very key, very, very key. And perhaps Lara and I could unpack that a little bit as we talk. This idea of the magic and the beauty that is all around us. It is everywhere. It is so, yeah, it's something to really realize how precious. And from the very beginning of the world, other species have been the lifeboats for the people. We have evolved together with them. They have sustained us. And now it's really time for us to look after them. The beauty of the natural world is a balm. And all the stories we tell ourselves lead inwards and outwards. So using our gifts and our dreams for good, mutualism, kindness, reciprocity, so essential in this moment of fear and anxiety. Solnit says, if gardens are the answer, in her lecture, if gardens are the answer, what is the question? That really, this is that plants can be our teachers. A garden too can become a seed itself. A garden is simultaneously immaterial and a spiritual undertaking. Food rises through partnership. In the Western tradition, there's a recognized hierarchy of human beings being at the top, the pinnacle of evolution, the darling of creation, and plants at the bottom. But in other ways of knowing, human beings are often referred to as the younger brothers of creation. We say that humans have the least experience of how to live and the most to learn. So we need to look to our teachers among the other species for guidance. There is wisdom in the way other species live. They have been here for far, far longer, and they teach us by example. They've been on Earth and they've had time to figure things out. We are codependent. We are part of the circle with them. And so it's time to think about how we might change that triangular shape. We must find shapes which are more circular. We must find shapes that are where we can come down from that high place of the triangle and share this planet with these other species in an egalitarian and humble position, rolling up our sleeves and becoming part of the restoration. Thanks.
Thank you, Léonie. Some of the things that have struck me throughout our conversations, of which we've had many, and it's been a wonderful and enjoyable process since I think last June, is your discussion around reciprocity. And when I visited your beautiful and extensive garden, where you plant an incredible a range of vegetables with your family, but also with your friends. And anybody who is allowed to visit at any particular time in the current rules over the past year. And I know I went away that day with armfuls of delicious vegetables. So that you're sharing the opportunity to work the land, which is a healthy and important thing for us all. And also, you know, people are taking away food as well. So it seemed to me that the way you're living and making your art are working, you know, absolutely integrally and symbiotically. And I think that comes across very powerfully in your very tender and moving work. And it struck me when you applied for the commission, as you approached the idea of bringing the family and the human to sit alongside the seed, that was going to be a very powerful and important image. And I think I'm absolutely delighted with the result. So thank you very much. And I'm sure visitors, and you must come to the museum, even though I'm delighted to say it looks fabulous on this screen, you can't beat in real life. So, and
at that point, Lara, the film didn't play quite correctly. So Laura's asked whether we could play it again with the sound.
I think it's all right. I think it's okay. I think I managed to show some pictures, so I think it'd
okay, that's fine.
Okay. Thank you, Stephanie. Yeah.
And I, from my point of view, we spent quite a bit of time with Holly, who's our specialist natural history curator and collections manager at the museum, and is wonderfully knowledgeable and can just put her hand on the right box and find the right thing when Léonie says, oh, I'm thinking maybe this. And it was very exciting to be able to be in the stores with the economic botany collections and the local seeds. And actually, Holly was finding things that, you know, hadn't had a lot of time spent on them, because, you know, the capacity is such that the museum, we can't spend all the time, especially when lots of people are furloughed. And then to see these seeds go to the conservation department, and they've come back like sparkling and amazing, like any minute they're going to sprout and become these plants, and they're so beautifully displayed and work wonderfully with your photographs.
Yeah, they have done such an amazing job of, and you've done an amazing job. I remember throughout, I can have a tendency to, oh, and that one, oh, and that one. It's so beautiful that you get less is more, and really, it can feel your presence in that choice in the cabinets, as we have a whole sheet of glass with like 2 seeds there, and they really hold their presence like that. The whole process has been a form of collaboration with obviously the complications of the pandemic, meaning we could never even touch each other, and we have never met each other before the pandemic, so it was strange, but we've had a very close relationship through it, and you've played an intrinsic part of helping guide me. I've started a new residency with the MRC, and I was saying to Lorna at MRC Centre Medical Mycology in Exeter how you have played a very important role in keeping the time checking too. It's time to stop photographing now, Léonie. It's time to start editing now. It's time to do this. I'd be like, oh, okay. I just keep going until you draw my lines. Oh, okay, now we're doing this. Okay, now we're doing this. And you kept everything. It was such a pleasure to work with you, Lara. You kept everything moving and flowing.
Yeah, well, I was thinking sometimes, I mean, artists think they don't need curators, but many artists really enjoy the relationship, because the curator is there. They're supposed to be there to care for them, because that's what the word curator means. So you should be cared for and kind of protected, and but also managed so that you can make the best work. And you made an enormous amount of work. And I was in the fortunate position of selecting some of it. I know you would have liked to have hung twice as many pictures. But I think, not least because we couldn't have afforded to frame anymore, but I do think it works beautifully in that space. We're very fortunate to have a wonderful designer at the museum as well, and exhibitions officer, so it's great to be part of an amazing team. I don't know, when you worked, I know you had a solo show at Foam in Amsterdam, which is a fantastic space. I was lucky enough to go there a couple of years ago. Did you have a curator that you worked closely with then, or did you literally send the works over?
Well, it was a different experience because the work was already made, so I wasn't in the process of making it, and you know, we've shared ideas along the way, so that's a very different process. But yeah, I obviously worked very closely with the curator to make the show and design it, and that was very helpful as well.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
I think what you were pointing out there about, it's very important to recognize that a work it's made like this out of an entire ecology of people that are working on in the museum, and we're all a part of it. We're all a part of that work being there. Starts with your dreaming, and then we're all in the parts of the cogs of the wheel. And
yeah. That's so true, and I have to say, from the museum's point of view and the collections in the museum, you know, these seeds haven't seen the light of day in terms of public display for a very long time, and some of them may never have been publicly displayed, you know, because they're really little tiny things and they're very difficult to display. So working out how to make that precious tiny thing sing like they do, and you know, work in relationship to your work is very Clever. Now, I'm aware of time moving on. We've only got 6 minutes. We've got one question in the Q&A, but we do seem to have seven things in the chat, which maybe questions, maybe comments. Let's see if, well, Michelle Sank, another wonderful photographer, says they look really intriguing and the exhibition looks so well realised. Thank you very much, Michelle. Some other comments, like agreeing with what you were saying. And Liz Wells, who is curator of Seedscapes, says, Léonie, I'm so looking forward to viewing your work in person. Have you come across the Rebel botanists in Plymouth?
I've heard of them. I need to get to know them, but yeah.
Because you've done quite a lot of work in Plymouth, and I was going to ask you about some other parts of your work, but we are running out of time. And Helen Harstein, who is a colleague of mine, she is head of audience development. Have you worked with museums before, and how is this commission different from ones you've worked from in the past? So you're starting to talk about that in relation to your exhibition.
Yeah.
Do you want to say a bit more about that?
I think it's the same story, actually. This is the first time I've worked from the beginning of a piece of work with a curator, so that's very different. I've had a number of experiences where I've worked with curators to get the work up on the walls, so that's it's a really interesting process too, but it's a whole different thing to conceive and take it to the end point in partnership with you.
Yeah. Joe Kimmins says, absolutely beautiful and inspirational, Léonie. Thanks for sharing. What was the Rebecca Solnit you quoted from? I happen to have Rebecca Solnit as well. Yeah. So I don't know whether it was it from this?
It wasn't from that. That is a wonderful book though. It was actually from a lecture you can find online, which she did 8 years ago, I think, called If Gardens Are the Answer, What is the Question?
Thank you. And Christine Kin says, thanks for your wonderful work, Léonie. Are you thinking of a book from this series? Wish I could see this in person, but I'm in Norway and I can't make it.
Mm-hmm. Well, that links into something I know you asked me just before, Lara, which is, could I imagine the photographs being seen without the seeds? So I had a little think about that before coming on, and the way I see it is that in that show there are different parts that are making up the experience of the work. There are the seeds, there are the photographs, there's me, there's the people that come in to see. We're all a part of the experience, and there's the space itself. And I wouldn't want any one of those parts to remain reliant upon one another. And I really do think the work has the potential to realize a book, and I will try to make that happen. And I imagine that perhaps the photographs, I would always have the ambition that they could remain in relationship with an alive plant or seed of some sort of part of a plant, because I think that idea that nothing we make, nothing we invent is as beautiful as what is already here is very key to the work. So having that element feels really important in a book or an exhibition, but it doesn't have to be those seeds. Those seeds can live on beyond just life itself.
Yes, Christine does comment that maybe the book could come with seeds. So yeah.
Oh, that's a good idea. Exactly. Yeah, I haven't even got that far. Thanks, Christine.
Yeah. We've got one more question from Emma Booth. Did you envision the work when you applied for the commission, or did the ideas and imagery evolve over the time of shooting and throughout the lockdown period?
This is the brilliant thing about commissions like this, or deadlines, or how it works, is they force the confrontation with the ideas that are there, and they help the emergence. So it's a combination. A lot of things evolved through process and doing the work, but the actual original idea came because Lara asked the question to us to apply. So I sat down and thought about it, and that's normally how it works for me.
Great. I think that's all the questions. Thank you. Thank you so much. And Stephanie's back.
Thank you very much, Léonie and Lara. That was fascinating, and thanks for joining us this evening and finishing off RAMM Lates for us.